Hi, I am Aiswarya from PG Department of English Language and Literature. Today, in this video, I am talking about the poem The Fish by Elizabeth Bishop, reading from the Fringes, second semester, Calicut University, Common Course. Firstly, I am talking about Elizabeth Bishop, an American poet, short story writer, and prolific painter, was born in 1911, Massachusetts, to William Thomas and Gertrude May Bishop. Her father died when she was less than a year old, and her mother was sent to an asylum due to mental illness. Young Bishop then lived with her maternal parents in Nova Scotia and later moved to her maternal relatives in Boston. Bishop was educated at the Walnut Hill School for Girls and Vassar College. Her years at Vassar were tremendously important to Bishop. There, she met Murray Moore, a fellow poet who became a lifelong friend. Working with a group of students that included the writers Mary McCarthy, Eleanor Clark, and Margaret Miller, she founded the short-lived but influential literary journal Conspirator, which was conceived as an alternative to the well-established Vassar Review. After graduation, Bishop lived in New York and traveled extensively in France, Spain, Ireland, Italy, and North Africa. Her poetry filled with descriptions of her journey and the sights she saw. Her short stories and her poetry were first published in the New Yorker and other magazines. In 1938, she moved to Key West, where she wrote many of the poems that eventually were collected in her first volume, North and South, 1946. Her second poetry, prestigious Pulitzer Prize, the complete poem 1927 to 1979, and some of her non-fiction works were published posthumously. Coming to the poem, The Fish, written by Elizabeth Bishop. The fish opened plainly, stating that the narrator has caught a tremendous fish. It is no ordinary fish. It is gigantic and causes a sense of pride in the mind of its captor due to its majestic look. The title, The Fish, and the first line establish a solid connection which helps to retain the reader's attention firmly on the giant fish. The fish is seen hooked and raised, partly out of the water. The hook has not been removed while addressing the fish on equal terms with the narrator. The narrator feels surprised that despite his large size, the fish didn't seem to resist at all. This amazed the narrator and started to observe the fish closely. The fish motionlessly, as the expression grinding weight suggests. Poet goes on admiring the features of the fish. She calls it venerable, respected. She uses a simile to describe the skin as it resembles old wallpapers. The pattern of the skin also adds to the feeling. Poet assumes that, like the ancient wallpapers, she compares the fish also aging. The descriptive manner in which she details the skin and appearance of the fish suggests her connection and admiration towards the creature. Concluding the wallpaper and logo, she shifts to an even more realistic detailing. The fish skin seems to have carried tiny white sea lice. She mentions the rays of green weed hanging down. The mood of the poem takes a shift. The image of the fish with the frightening gills that can cut so badly is coupled with the fact that it is wounded and dying. Fish can live out of water. The same oxygen that sustains human lives is terrible for the fish. The life of the fish lies in the hands of the speaker. The speaker thinks of the fish as food for the first time. The thought of white flesh and bones all refers to the aspects of the fish, but then the narrator looks at the eyes of the fish. Bishop tells us that his eyes were larger than mine. The fisher versus the fish or man versus nature theme become further conspicuous. Isinglass refers to the gelatin from fish used to make jellies, glue, etc. The movement of the eyes and its troubled breathing are the only signs of the fish being alive. The fish does not look towards the capture. Elizabeth Bishop presents image and expressions that humanize the fish and treat it more as an object. The poem again takes another turn as the narrator notices 5 old pieces of fishing lines. It is not just the fish line, but fragments of hooks are also seen in the jaw. The giant-like fish has survived 5 previous instances of hooking. Here it shows no resistance, but instead remains stoic. These fish lines seem to hang like medals with their ribbons. The fish was victorious in previous encounters with human beings, and the hook and wire are tokens of its feat. The old fish is feeling the pain now. The last meeting might have taken a whole lot out of it. The line, "I starred and starred," tells the narrator. The speaker has been starting from the very start of the poem, and for the first time, the poet shifted the attention away from the fish and mentioned the rendered boat used for fishing. The rusted engine, sun, cracked thwarts, oarlock, gunnels all get mentioned. A normal sort of oil spillage on the water causes a rainbow impression on it. The mention of rainbow is repeated few lines later, until everything was rainbow, rainbow, rainbow. There were mention of various colors: green, rose, brown, black, white, etc. All these culminate in the perfection of a rainbow, stands here as a symbol of hope and beauty. In the biblical tale Noah and the Ark, a rainbow appears in the sky after all the hardship, making the end of difficult times. Here also it marks the end of suffering. The speaker earlier mentioned victory filling the boat. The victory belonged to whom? The angler or the fish? The speaker released the fish. Thus, they share the success. The theme of the man's dominance over nature, his quest to tame the animal kingdom, exploit resources, and reign above fellow beings are juxtaposed with the ideas of humanity, empathy, and coexistence. Revelation dawned upon the speaker between the first and last line, between fishing and releasing it. The respect for the fish, its humanizing attributed, and the praise for its endurance fill the speaker's heart. As everything seems like a rainbow, he can view beauty in all. Thank you.